Hi there. So I thought I'd jump on today and talk about alignment before you move. So it's really important when you're doing your mat work that you're starting your body as neutral as possible, meaning you have a neutral pelvis and then sort of the natural curves of your spine. When you go to a studio, your instructor probably walks around and maybe gives you some props he or she sees that you need them. But maybe you're doing your workouts at home and you're not sure whether you're in neutral or not. So I wanted to sort of help you with that today, and we'll go over some props you can use to maybe start your workouts a little bit more in a stress-free position. My name's Gretchen, founder of Balance to the Core, and I'm here every week with a new video. So be sure to hit that subscribe button as well as the bell next to it if you would like to be part of this community. Props that I'm going to use for the most part today are a rolled up hand towel as well as a pad where I'm going to put my head. So you can take a little pillow or a pad of some sort. Our body goes through some wear and tear throughout our lives. So depending on how old you are, what kind of experiences you've had in your life, our spine has two natural inward curves at the low back as well as the neck, and then an outward curve right at that upper mid back. Okay, for many of us, what happens is those curves get exaggerated. They can put pressure in other areas, so the other areas of the spine compensate. But if you go for those natural curves, that's the most sort of shock-free position of your spine, and that's how we want to start most of our exercise. Let's say you have a spine that's called lordosis, where maybe you have an excessive inward curve of your low back. So maybe the arch of your back is a little bit more exaggerated, okay? When you have that, if you were to lie down and try to find your neutral pelvis, right? So let's say you find your neutral, and if you're unsure of neutral, hit that series right now, there where I go over neutral. So you might find your neutral pelvis, which that's what's most important. You don't want to tilt your pelvis in order to find the natural curves. First, find your neutral, okay? So you probably have this extra space underneath your low back. And I wish I had a body for you to kind of show this, but we're all quarantined right now, so it's just me and you. So just bear with me. So if you take a rolled up hand towel and place it right underneath your low back and then settle your pelvis down. Now, find your neutral pelvis and then notice what happens with your low back. It has something to palpate against, a little feedback. And then you can really engage your abdominals and really keep that neutral pelvis stable. So when you start in this position, you're stress-free, right? It should feel good for you. And you'll know if you need it, if you do feel better with the prop versus not having the prop. Because if we're there without the prop, you have this exaggerated curve and then it goes right into sort of tension right into there. So if I'm going to ask you to move from that position, right, it's just going to irritate it more no matter what type of movement you're going to do. When you have that prop to just sort of fill in the space, it feels so much better and it allows you so much more freedom to do your movement. Now, I also want you to notice that once you've sort of filled in that space, I want you to notice what your head did. If your head went out in alignment, because remember, the rest of your spine sort of compensates. If you have this excessive low back curve, the front of the head might be going forward all the time to help balance that out when you're standing. So you might have sort of a forward head, which means when you come down here, it's sort of back behind you and that goes into tension in the neck. So then you just want to place sort of a pillow underneath your head, and you can sort of press it all the way around wherever feels comfortable. Keep adjusting it to where you feel your neck release. The plumb line we're looking for is your nose and ears to be lined up. So you'll know if that doesn't happen when you're back here, right, and it's not lined up. So just sort of find a space where your eyes are directly upward. Maybe your chin is sort of parallel with the wall that's in front of you, okay? But the plumb line is nose to ear. We want that lined up. All right, so that's your start position. You should feel really tense-free, and then when you do anything in this position, it just feels really good. The second type of spinal shape is kyphosis, where you have this exaggerated outward curve of the spine. Okay, so where you're rounded forward. A lot of men have kyphosis from weightlifting and sort of working their upper body where everything's sort of rounded forward. I think in general, a lot of us have some sort of kyphosis because our bodies have compensated with everything in front of us, right? Our tablets, computers, everything that our modern world has is basically in front of us. With my experience, many people have some sort of kyphotic curve, okay? That's exaggerated. You still want your towel, all right, just like we used in the other one. Instead of it going to your low back, you're now gonna put that towel parallel, okay, so that it lines up with your spine. So when I go over this, I'm going to lie my upper back over it. I'm just gonna move my pillow for a sec. So I'm gonna lie my upper back over it and notice what that does for you. So if that curve was excessively forward, I am now reversing it. So I'm putting this prop to almost create a curve for you, okay? So we're trying to reverse that kyphotic curve from excessive to more length. So to do that, I placed it right sort of in between your shoulder blades. It opens your shoulders, it opens your collarbone. Everything should feel like, oh, it almost releases, right? You feel that stress release. So even if you're not sure if you have kyphosis, try the prop there and see how it feels. If you feel like you're more open and you can get that pelvis more in alignment with the spine, then try this. And you can guarantee if you've done this, you have a head forward position, that your head goes back here once that prop goes right into that curve. So you're gonna take your head pillow again, and you might need another one. You might need it higher, but again, look for that plumb line of your nose lined up with your ears. And you don't even have to move to feel this. Like, you could just do this every single day, lie down and just find this, sort of just release and, watch your TV or read a book like this for a few minutes every day. You would get results just by doing that. Now, when you work your arms and extremities from this position, it just feels really good. You're not stressing or straining anything. And if I asked you to roll up, you're not already in that curve where you just like crunch everything in. You're able to come up with more openness, and that's really what we're looking for. We're looking for you to start each of your movements as stress-free as possible. Because as Joseph Pilates said, if you're not starting in alignment, there's a guarantee that the movement isn't going to be in alignment. And that's ultimately what we want in Pilates, because you're trying to create more suppleness and flexibility in that spine. And the only way that can happen is if you're creating natural curves of your spine. There's also something called flat back, where maybe your curves are so lengthened it almost looks like you have a straight spine. Again, you can use the props. You can put it in your low back and almost create an arch for yourself, okay? I know we put it in for the lordosis where we sort of filled in that extra curve, but now you want to create a curve just like we did with your upper back and that kyphosis. You're creating it so you almost feel like it's stretching you, but the key is, do you have that neutral pelvis? That's what you start with. And then just by lying here, you're really opening up that low back and creating more length. So another reason why we want to line that spine so much is because it's going to allow your other joints to line up. Because if you think about someone who has lordosis, right, has a really excessive low back curve to them, what's happening is they're coming forward. It's like their hip flexors are tight and short, and the back of them is lengthened. So you're thinking about the other parts of your body as well. So when you can get the pelvis and spine aligned, the rest of your body falls into alignment. And that's ultimately what we want. We don't want you overworking muscles you don't need to overwork, because what happens is that kind of eventually turns into injury and chronic pain. Okay, so if we can start with those natural curves of the spine, a neutral pelvis, it's a lot easier to align the rest of the body, and working from there is where you're going to see the postural adjustments, and you're going to see and feel your posture improve. So give these props a try. If you're doing your Pilates workouts from home, make sure you have your props with you. And you may be using these props for a long period of time, because you got to think about how long have you been walking around with this posture, right? So you can't expect it to improve in a day, in a month. Sometimes you'll have props for a year before you feel like you can take them away. And sometimes you may feel like you won't be able to take them away. And that's fine too. We're looking to really just support your practice as much as possible. Okay, so just be kind to yourself, don't judge yourself, and just give yourself what it needs. And the key is, in your start position, start as stress-free as possible with those natural curves and your neutral pelvis. okay? And let me know how it goes and if you have any questions, because I'm totally here to help you, all right? Thank you so much for watching today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.
Are you looking for more accountability or consistency in your workouts? Or maybe you'd like to be part of a community who also loves Pilates? If so, come join my live online classes. More information and signups at balancetothecore.com.